engaging. And last time our prompt for reflection has been, what possibilities might emerge if we don't rush to find the answer? What possibilities might emerge if we don't rush to find the answer? You know, in this world of so much rushing. How can we increase our alignment with the earth and her delicate web of life? This is the most important question of our times. How can we increase our alignment with earth and her delicate web of life? Allowing that question to sink in. And feel and sense how it lands in our bodies and in our hearts. And then also being aware what the thinking mind does. Does it throw up, negative thoughts of doom and despair and impossibility? Or can we simply keep the mind grounded in the body, in the feelings, the sensations, and open to not knowing? And whenever, the mind clenches around a thought, noticing that and opening by coming back to sensing and feeling, rather than splitting off energy into thinking. That's what we try to train here. To develop the capacity to tolerate all of the feeling and sensations which come up. Because in a way, modernity is a huge system defending against feelings of not being in control. Through a lot of machines and technology, and some of it is really helpful and good, but some of it is not longer working. So this is the beginning of challenging the deeply ingrained habits of modernity. And some of them are very, very harmful. Racism, colonialism, extraction, and all of the harm of our ways of living, in particular in the global north. And being with all of that and allowing it to sink in and not rejecting the feelings that come up. That's the work of composting. To just be with the feelings and not go into thinking. Thinking of either I'm bad or thinking I'm pure or whatever comes up. Just not going into thinking and allowing that spaciousness to rewire us. So making space and practicing this different kind of generosity of making oneself available to being rewired by composting all of these very scary thoughts through sensing and feeling the energy rather than splitting it off into habitual thinking. And we need to do this together. Because we are all together in this. It's not a personal failing or anything. It's a evolutionary development stage. Growing out of adolescence into accountability and maturity by making that decision. And the gateway is the feeling and sensing and the clear aspiration to realize ourselves as part of a living, intelligent earth. And really doing the sensing and feeling work in the body, the energy body. The trunk of the body, the torso, where there's probably a lot of feelings going on. There's also the legs and the arms and the head, spreading out awareness a little bit beyond the contours of the body. And with the in-breath, consciously allowing the sensations and the feelings to touch us deeply. And with the out-breath, we are letting go, relaxing into the spaciousness and the grounding inside of Earth. And just sensing that maybe there's a contraction felt, like a hesitation, a kind of fear. And then it's just taking one more spoon, just like a little kid eating the spinach or something. One more spoon, please. For mommy, and one more spoon for whoever. One more. So as the illusion of human exceptionalism and supremacy dissolves, in front of our eyes and hearts, and into that silence, which invites us to feel and sense into the grief. It could have been otherwise, but it wasn't, and it isn't right now. And grief is very different than guilt. Grief is helpful, grief and remorse is helpful, but guilt keeps us stuck. It's really important to see the difference. Remorse and grief are a prerequisite for maturation and accountability, and guilt is just evading the feeling. We are all entangled in extraction from the planet, all of us. And we need this kind of a rewiring in order to think and act with the web of life in heart, in mind, in body. And that can only happen through rewiring the old instructions, the old conditioning needs to be dissolved and changed. And that is happening anyway. That's, I think, why you're all coming here, because you're sensing that's already started in you. And coming to this group, we get support, and somehow it gets amplified by doing it together. And that's something we can lean into. Receive the support and offer the support at the same time. feeling the resonance of the recognition that yes, we are all entangled in extracting from the planet, and we all need rewiring to do that differently. And it's not going to happen in a moment. It's generational work. It has to start somewhere. Why not starting with us? So holding this ambiguity and allowing the weight of what we are considering to transform us. And as we are sitting in this way, just again and again coming back to sensing and feeling. Whenever the mind wanders off into thinking about something, because we simply don't know what's going to happen. But we do know that we need to learn to think and act and live in harmony with the web of life. That's something which is very clear. And even we don't know exactly how that's going to pan out and everything, but we start where we are. And then, take it from there. And as we are sitting now, I'd like to invite the benevolent forces of the universe to pay witness, to our work. And there's a chant, which we do sometimes at ceremonies at the beginning, and I'd like to share that with you today again. I've done that in the past. Paritavana metang sameta badanta avikita citta paritang banantu samantra chakravalesu atra gachantu devata sa dhammang munirachasa sunantu sakamokadang sa gekame charupe girisikaratate chantalike vimane diperate chakame taruvana kahane gehavatumhi kete Pumma chayantu deva chalatala visame yaka kanta panaka Didanta santike yang munivaravachanang sadavo me sunantu Buddha dasanakalo ayang patanta Dhamma savanakalo ayang patanta Sangha parirupa sanakalo ayang patanta. So now allowing that to sink in, we are not alone. This is a cosmic process. And that process, supports composting of harm into something that regenerates life instead of depleting it. Because this cosmic process is constantly regenerating life and composting it. And our body is doing the same thing on a very macro level. And earthworms doing the same thing, composting and adding to life. We are all doing that. We can align ourselves with that. And we somehow have lost touch with that through the conditionings of modernity. We have lost capacity for relating. That's what happened. And now we wake up to it. Instead of, completely beating ourselves up and getting lost in despair, we can as well, do the grief and then use that as a stepping stone to renewal. Being in touch with ourselves, and deepening our capacity for relationship, which got really very, very shallow through the conditioning of modernity. The individual relationality has been not encouraged. But that was kind of outsourced for science and for other specialists, to take care of this. And we are just going with the program. And now we see that isn't really how things work. We are all part of a living, intelligent earth. And we need to live that way and think that way and speak that way. And we need to learn it like a child, or like someone learning a language, a new language. And that's like work, but it can be done. I remember, when I was in Thailand with my first teacher, my English was really not good. I didn't even understand 50% of what was being said. My Thai was not existent at all. And then my English is pretty okay these days, and I've learned Thai as well and forgotten it again because I don't use it any much anymore. So learning a language is doable. The language of the web of life, and it's not even very wordy. It's a sensing, feeling language, intuitive language. It requires a sensitizing and an opening and an interest, a courage, all of the qualities we need anyway for cultivating and moving out of suffering. So noticing the gravity which gently keeps us in place. And in the torso, the midline of the body, all kinds of feelings and sensations maybe are there, percolating. Giving it space. Also noticing the arms and the legs, the energy body, which is just a little bit beyond the boundaries of the skin. We can sense into that aliveness with every breath, dropping a little bit deeper and releasing any stress, any doubt, any contraction, releasing that into the earth beneath where we are sitting right now. And breathing up the stability, the vastness of the ground. So sensing into this aliveness, which the body can give us that lifeline into the bigger body of the earth. Yes, we're constantly pulling in nourishment through breathing. The light comes to us from the sun. It's all building blocks for the body for some time, and then I let go of the water system in the area where we live. Is also part of what makes up our body. So working with imagination and sensing to expand perception, and through that changing our conditioning. And it takes the time it takes. Rushing doesn't help. And today I brought an earth prayer by Stephanie Kaza, whom I met I think 2 years ago. She's a Buddhist teacher and also Zen practitioner, and she wrote this prayer when she was at Green Gulch Farm. That's a Zen monastery quite close by where I live, here in San Rafael. And it goes like this. We live by the sun. We feel by the moon. We move by the stars. We live in all things. All things live in us. We eat from the earth. We drink from the rain. We breathe of the air. We live in all things. All things live in us. We call to each other. We listen to each other. Our hearts deepen with love and compassion. We live in all things. All things live in us. We depend on the trees and animals. We depend on the earth. Our minds open with wisdom and insight. We live in all things. All things live in us. We dedicate our practice to others. We include all forms of life. We celebrate the joy of living, dying. We live in all things. All things live in us. We are full of life. We are full of death. We are grateful for all beings and companions. We live in all things. All things live in us. It's a beautiful summary of what we are doing. To really allow this to meet us, this truth. Because the ways we live is currently so otherwise. But then if we really look into it, it opens up. And it is not otherwise. It couldn't be. But for that we need to expand our perception. We need to train it, cultivate it, and move into adulthood and accountability and the joy and the depth of relationship that brings. So cultivating a renewed connection and developing new relational skills and making that a practice. Because now this is the most important question of our times, to realize that. The different shifting consciousness, and from that renewed capacity of seeing and looking, new responses will emerge. They can't come from the old paradigm. They're just repetition of the same old, same old. This work needs to be done as well. We need to do it by composting the old paradigm, by hospicing modernity with kindness and clarity, There's no going back. And we have the Buddha's teaching, which are essentially all about the question, how do I relate to this? This is one way of expressing what the Buddha's teaching is all about. How do I relate to this? Internally and externally. And as we are doing this practice, we get to know our habits, get to know our fears, get to know our weaknesses and our strengths. How do I relate to this inside of the 4 establishments of mindfulness, the 4 satipatthana, body, feeling tone, mind states, and principles of experience? And we are just working mainly with the body and the feeling tones and the mind states. And then what we start to realize is they are all impermanent. They are all changing, and that takes us into the 4th establishment. By realizing that, the mind starts to let go. The heart starts to let go because it's no longer completely lost in the stories, but it more and more is capable of seeing the structure, impermanence, instability, constant change. So diving, kind of coming back out of content and story and endless repetitions, and seeing suddenly, they all have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And this is just the way things are. Feelings, thoughts, and whole paradigms have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and that's non-personal. This is the truth of the way things are. And we can have faith in that. We don't have to make it stop or anything, but we can collaborate by not resisting. But by composting and digesting our fears and our conditioning and being part of that flow. We are anyway part of it. But if you resist it, there's a lot of stress, and that's called dukkha, suffering. First noble truth. There is suffering. Second noble truth, the origin of suffering is clinging and craving. And third noble truth, the end of suffering is letting go of that clinging and craving and being with the simplicity of the experience, which is anyway constantly changing. And Fourth Noble Truth, the path, which leads us to the capacity of letting go of clinging and claving. Through being with contact without defending. And if defense comes up, then this is also known. Anything which is there can be included in what is known. There is nothing which needs to be suppressed or denied. But rather than becoming it, we know it, that has arisen. And we notice how we relate to everything which is there. If there is resistance, fear, desire, confusion, whatever it is, it's known. And we also know it's impermanent. And that allows some space around experience, sense of perspective, a different perception, an expansion. So it's building relational intelligence towards our own experience internally and also what comes to us externally through the sense organs. And just slowing down and honoring the earth rhythm, which is much slower, than us in some ways. Now as spring has begun, go outside and witness that. It's time of renewal, of new birth. And this happens every year. When the earth is going around the sun, there's different distance from the heat of the sun. And that makes up the seasons, how we experience that. So learning to quote unquote, learning to identify ourselves with a living, intelligent earth, and that's the medicine we can take when we do this practice, or when we go outside and witness, how nature is reflecting our own process nature back to us. Our own beauty, our own vulnerability, and through doing that consciously and consistently, we are getting rewired. This is a conditioning which does renew conditioning. It's a conditioning practice, really, by looking at ourselves and our lives in a way which is different than we have looked just a few months or years ago. Like learning a skill, driving a car, learning an instrument or a sport. It takes time. But then at one point, it becomes our second nature. We don't need to make a conscious effort anymore because it has sunk in so deeply. We got rewired. Not just the brain, but the whole being. I'm going to read one more time Stephanie Kaza's prayer, Earth Prayer. We live by the sun. We feel by the moon. We move by the stars. We live in all things. All things live in us. We eat from the earth. We drink from the rain. We breathe of the air. We live in all things. All things live in us. We call to each other. We listen to each other. Our hearts deepen with love and compassion. We live in all things. All things live in us. We depend on the trees and animals. We depend on the earth. Our minds open with wisdom and insight. We live in all things. All things live in us. We dedicate our practice to others. We include all forms of life. We celebrate the joy of living, dying. We live in all things. All things live in us. We are full of life. We are full of death. We are grateful for all beings and companions. We live in all things. All things live in us. Now we can sit silently for another 10 minutes or so.